go. So I will now introduce our final speaker for the evening, Sarabeth Bowmaster. Sarabeth is a third-year student within the Schreier Honors College at Penn State, dual majoring in women's gender and sexuality studies and philosophy with a focus on the social sciences. Outside of the classroom, Sarabeth serves as the peer educator within the Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity, a line ambassador, a student instructor of WMNST 197 within STS, and a research assistant in the GPP lab. Sarabeth is incredibly passionate about peer-to-peer education and the empowerment of student voices. And after Penn State, Sarabeth aspires to attend graduate school to pursue a PhD in women's gender and sexuality studies in the hopes of serving as a professor in continuing research. So please give it up for Sarabeth.
Hi everyone. As mentioned, my name is Sarabeth Bowmaster, and I'm a junior here at Penn State. My majors are women's gender and sexuality studies and philosophy, and as mentioned, I am a peer educator, so I've served as a peer educator within the Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity, helped with the Gender Equity Center, the Awesome Per office, students teaching students, and as an NSO leader. So I've gotten to do this a lot, and I really love it, and that's why I wanted to come talk about it today. And also, I mentioned on the slide that my hometown is Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, to give some insight. It's about 40 minutes away, very rural, very old school Pennsylvania hometown. So that'll come into play later, but remember that. So this is gonna feel a little cheesy, but if you would, and you're comfortable, close your eyes for a minute, take a deep breath, and think about the most impactful conversation you've ever had. Think about who it was with, what they had to say, and what they shared with you. So I'll be quiet for a minute so you can do that. All right, so thinking about who it was with. A show of hands, I can't see you very well, but I'm gonna see the ones in the front. Did you share some experiences or identities with those people, the person you had that conversation with? So yes, if you did, raise your hand. Okay, most of us. And then think about what they had to say. You know, were they telling you pretty surface level stuff, your basic small talk conversations, get to know you, or were they going deeper? Were they telling you things that maybe took some vulnerability, some emotional effort for them to tell you? And within those things, were they sharing experiences with you? Were they sharing moments that were transformative to them, moments that really changed them, and really impacted who they were deep in them as a person? So the reason I'm talking about these experiences, because I see them as a solution. And the solution that or the problem that they are solving is ignorance. And I want us to think about ignorance as not a character flaw or something that we label upon someone we don't like or someone we disagree with, but ignorance is a general problem that everyone in society faces. Especially here at Penn State, I think that we have so much experience around us. As I tried to show with this little graphic, we all have things connecting us. Especially here, we all have Penn State and a love for the university in one way or another. And so we need to use that. We need to use that to connect us and to bond us and to allow us to share our experiences, which may differ, to again, solve that problem of ignorance. So, people like me who grew up in a rural hometown or just a different environment from those that I'm around may not have ever been exposed to or had experience with people who have different identities than me or than us, such as race, gender, sexuality, socioeconomic status, or other identities. And so we have some ignorance in that general area, and that isn't really our fault or something that we chose, but it is a huge problem that we all need to come together to solve. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we all have this bonding thing, this connecting connector, I guess, of Penn State, and we need to use that while we can. So using that to listen to each other's experiences is super important so that when we leave this place and we go and expand our networks and expand the things we're doing and the places that we're working, that we can take all the things that we've learned from those around us and be conscious of those when we're working in our own areas. And how can we ease the burden of experience? So thinking about this and expecting our peers to share experience is a lot to ask of them. As I mentioned earlier, those experiences may be something that are really deep and may have impacted us in a negative or a positive way. But especially when they're negative, it can be really difficult to share that with others and can take a lot of vulnerability. So how do we ease that burden? Well, the number one thing that I've been involved with at Penn State that has eased that burden is training and support. So as someone who works within the Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity, I've been trained. I offer other students training for their peer educating experience, and I have support from professional staff members in student offices and orgs. Also, compensation for students who are willing to share their stories and educate other students. Ideally, I would love to see peer education put into the curriculum of first-year seminars so that folks have the experience to go into these classrooms and share their experience with new students at Penn State, to open up their Penn State experience with a more holistic understanding of what various students experience here, rather than just having one blanket understanding of what the Penn State experience is that may not connect to them or those around them. Also, working as allies for other communities is very important within this. When you're listening to folks speak about their experiences or just moving out in your daily life as a Penn State student, as an employee, as an educator, or whatever is next, you need to be an ally to those around you and those in other communities. So what that can look like is coming to talks like these and listening to folks speak about their experiences or their levels in areas of expertise. It could also be utilizing those resources we have right now as students or community members at Penn State. We have various different offices that focus on many different identities and student experiences. And while we're here, we should really utilize them because we have experts in the palm of our hands to tell us any information that we could need who are trained in how to do that. And that again takes off some of the burden of folks who are experiencing these things. Also with allyship, something I like to say in every talk that I give about these type of things is that it takes a long time. It's not something that you're going to wake up with tomorrow and say, I want to be an ally and now I'm the best ally ever. It takes daily practice, daily effort. You know, maybe you have a thought that is against a certain group or a certain identity, and so you just stop, take a second and say, well, why did I think that? Why is that wrong? And keep moving on with your day. And that's you being an active ally and showing that allyship is a verb and it's something that you're doing every day. That also involves going to these talks, like I said, going into those offices, and maybe even taking classes in areas that make you uncomfortable or make you think a little bit more. So next steps are all of those things, as well as using all of the different resources that you have beyond Penn State, such as Google, TED Talks, and other things like that. It's really that easy. And although it takes a long time and it can be quite a strenuous process to become educated on other people's experiences and identities, it is really essential to being a positive light onto the world and in your next moves after Penn State. So while you're here, utilize the resources that we have, and when you move on to the next thing, show what makes Penn Staters so great, that we are active allies who value experience and listen to our peers and learn from them. Thank you.